Hello, everybody. Welcome to Winners and Losers with Hank Thompson, episode 217. I'm joined by Sandee Lovas from Left of the Box, all over Twitter, YouTube, this space, actually. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a cool. I'm really I've been watching that from afar going, this is a good idea. I like what they're doing. And I think the execution is actually looking great so far. So also former contributor to the Young Turks through on Rebel HQ, and I could keep going at Sandee. Amazing artist, I would like to point out, by the way. You that is a beautiful drawing of a cat. I just assumed it was a photo. No, I know, but you're is it pencil?
Yeah, that's pencil.
Pencil illustrations are so realistic, and you just did one of Olay, which I saw in one of your live streams. Absolutely magnificent, and then you have this like time lapse thing where it. Yeah. I was so impressed by that, and can I? Okay. Also, author, by the way, I don't want to let that go by. Can you? She's got a, what's it called? I know the name, Necroplasm. That is super cool.
I did not name the book. It was part of a program and stuff. Oh. It's a cheesy name. I think it's a cheesy name, but I love what I wrote so hard.
Did you have other names that you wanted to call it, or working
no,
names?
It was part of an online publishing derby where it was free to join up, and they had covers with titles and fake pen names already made, and you select which ones you like, then they were doled out, then you write a book based on the cover you received.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I ended up writing an entire novel based on that cover with that title.
That's awesome. That's like improv. So like you got a suggestion, and then but instead of 5 minutes of being a silly person on a stage, you do however many. How long did it take you to finish the book? I mean, that's what is it? That looks like a big one too.
It was about like the whole process started in June and ended in October. So basically, in 3 months, I had the first real draft of my book done, and then I did some tweaking and modifying, and then in October, we all released it at the same time as an ebook. And the idea is during it, you can't advertise it under your real name, only that pen name. And let's see who can sell the most when we all start from scratch. And then afterwards, you can reveal what book it is. You can change, like I changed the cover to have my name on it and whatnot. And earlier this year, I decided to release it as a paperback, but I made some more changes to it so that to set it up for some sequels and prequels I have in my head, because I'm still living in this world nonstop. It's a vampire horror that is loaded with my social and political commentary. So, yeah.
Aren't all vampire stories political? Isn't that kind of like, isn't it inherently the most political monster? Is there a continuum of politicized monsters? Is the creature from the Black Lagoon political, or?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more overt in my book, and plus I'm writing it from the perspective. It's in first person perspective of the vampire.
Okay.
And so it's almost like you can examine humanity through their eyes.
Right.
Which, to tie this into this space, which I show up on Wednesdays from 4 to 5, the last Wednesday of the month, I go on as Minuet, the main character, the vampire of my book.
Oh, wow.
To give social and political commentary on this space as a vampire.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to check that out. That's good. You really are living in that world. That is great. And so you've got prequels. So your brain. Now you've talked about this. Look at the kitty. What's that one's name?
Abernathy.
Abernathy. Perfect. Somehow I didn't expect that. Abernathy. Look how much Abernathy loves you. Very compliant too. That is a trusting cat. Makes me miss my cat, and I'm so glad that she went back to the home that she escaped from. I took in a stray cat who was starving. Took care of her for 2 years. It was a horror because she was super nice, but I was just overstimulated and over anxious, and it just really messed with my whole brain. And then it turned out that she belonged to the house behind me. So I stole my neighbor's cat for 2 years, and they didn't give me. I wish they'd paid me more money than they did. They gave me $100. I spent like $1,500 on the cat that they abandoned. Anyway, that's a side point. I'll tell. Yeah. I hope they don't watch the podcast. But so okay, what was I going to say? Oh. We have some topics. We don't necessarily have to get to all of them. You and I are both autistic. I know you talk about that on your show a lot. I don't necessarily think we need to go deep diving into that because we're going to talk about TYT, of course. You and I share some history in a sense, being former TYT. I was an employee slash other various employee categorizations, and I worked there over and over. But you were a contributor, so
Yeah.
I was just going to relate to the autism part of your book, being that like I feel very inhabited. Like I'm annoyed at this meat body I have, and I feel very comfortable inside my rich brain, inside in the
Hmm.
interior universe. A lot of my creativity I spend inside that brain. Sometimes it's pretty stressful inside this brain, but sometimes I really enjoy just being able to do
Hmm.
whatever the fuck I want inside there. Is that kind of similar to your brain in terms of the book and the way you're
Oh yeah.
expressing
Oh
the
yeah.
writing?
It is, I escape into that world, and it is such an escape because my mind is very, very visual. And
Mm,
so I walk into a room and I can see items and I can tell you what these things look like that I talk about in the book. And I know what these characters look like. And it's like I'm living in that world and I'm seeing like flashes of it all over, kind of like a stipple drawing. So I'm seeing bits here and there and there. But then all of a sudden they all start to cohes into like this one big image. And it's like, oh, so this is why this was happening over here because it connects to right here, even though at the time I don't know that. And it is such an escape, especially from this world that we're living
right.
in. I would
Yeah.
rather live in my horror book than in this reality. It's
That's funny.
it's pretty much where it is right now. But to tie this back in, to what we're talking about today is I've also been working on a TYT video and I have a good incentive to get it done. And that is I can then go back to my book to write the sequels and the prequels I have in my mind. But I can't do that until my TYT video is done. Otherwise, that TYT video ain't ever getting done. So the reward for me finally getting it done will be I get to escape back into this book.
I completely understand. That's one reason I wanted to talk to you about a lot of this is because you've talked about your video, and I've been
Mhm.
a little bit around the scene, sort of making some noises, putting out, taking wild swings on Twitter with my documentary, Tell the Truth, Jank, and so you and I really share that kind of. Um, I don't know. It feels like I'm a bit poisoned by the whole thing too, but it does very feel like a blockage to have all this effort deep into a thing,
Mhm.
and it's a righteous quest, and it must be finished, not just because of the message that I'm trying to get through, and feel free to tell me if you relate or if you don't, but also like the supporters I've gotten that have given me some help with it to try to get me, through a few tough spots here and there. I have to honor their contributions, and I have to honor my
Mhm.
friends whose story I'm telling about the union, and trying to ultimately get Jank to do the right thing, which is to tell the truth about the why the
Mhm.
union started at the Young Turks. And I've been telling that truth, but it's the justice moment for it will be when he finally tells the truth. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It's not okay that he got to erase his worker's story. Anyway, before I'm getting on my soapbox, I do a solo podcast a lot, so that's why I'm kind of comfortable just rambling. But so the but
Well,
that
on
feeling,
that, I do live streams, usually on Sundays. This week, not so much, but usually on Sundays. I ramble a lot too. A short live stream for me these days is 4 hours, so I totally understand that.
okay, good, yeah, I know I do like a 5 hour podcast, and I don't, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, why am I not live stream? And also, so but when I have guests on, it's just me
Mhm.
doing my podcast at them, so
Mhm.
forgive me for if I trend into, but the blockage I totally get. I think we'll get into some details maybe a little bit. You don't have to, give up
Mhm.
all the juicy morsels that you've prepared. And I know you've done a ton of research, and your video sounds really interesting. And I'm super excited to see it when it's finally done. So hurry it up. No, it's so just, but the that whole blockage part of this process too is something I wanted to kind of, you and I related to, is like,
Mhm.
gosh, I have so much other creative impulses in this big messy brain, and I have so many other things I'd like to do with my
Mhm.
time and my energy. And frankly, the thing that I'm most angry about in terms of this whole story is that I had to do it. I didn't choose to
Mhm.
do this. Jenk chose to
Yeah.
do this. It's, if he'd told the truth about why the workers started the union, I would have been, well, that look at that's what happened. I'll move on. But
Yeah.
so
Like as I started this video, it started to get it bigger and bigger. And it's not, to me, it doesn't feel like going down the rabbit hole. It feels like being sucked down a whirlpool.
Okay. Yeah.
because there's just so much. And part of the issue I was having was I'm really like deconstructing a lot of what Jake and Anna are misleading their audience with. And they would go on to these other shows and they wouldn't shut up. Like they kept on doing and saying things. It's like, oh, that's very important for me to add to the video. Oh, that's not, now I need to
Right.
add that. Now it's just at some point, it's like, okay, I just need to shut down. And so there's going to be most of the clips because it's going to have a ton of montages and stuff. Most of them will be from between like December and a few months ago, but there are a couple more recent ones. And then there's also a lot of really old clips that I found that are relevant to the messaging in the video because it's not a video, like it's not a video for drama's sake. There are underlying themes and important messages that I'm trying to communicate with this. Like there's no way I would spend this much time on something like this, taking away from like my creative endeavors if it was just clickbait.
Right.
Because I could easily just go on a live stream and shit talk TYT if all I was looking for is clickbait. But it's taking so long because it's like there's very important messages that Jank and Anna are the framing device for. Or I'm trying to really reach the TYT audience to ask them, why are you still watching when in this video I will prove to you that they're being insincere about half the things that they're talking about. They're completely on the right side of some issues, but then on
Hmm.
other issues, they are like I don't want to say lying, but they're not telling an accurate truth, knowingly
Yes.
or unknowingly.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that in there, and I think to some degree, just the nature of, particularly with Jenk and Anna being, I'm not going to say the word pioneer. That's a bit much, but like very early into this online space, they have as probably the deepest history to go back through, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty forgiving of mild inconsistencies or things that might come across slightly hypocritical. I think context within every single era and every single video itself is incredibly difficult to suss out for a lot of times too. So I went on my way with my project to like do what they didn't do to the Young Turks workers that unionized, which is give us the benefit of the doubt. So I spent a lot of time in the film proving their case for why they had a right to be suspicious. You know, like I actually go all
Mhm.
the way through the whole campaign and show the way the mainstream media was very unfair to Jank and stuff like that. And it's like it's the spirit of the video is to show good faith. And it sounds like you worked really hard to try to uphold that too, in order, and which to me would under not, and again I don't know fully know the thesis of your film yet or your video yet. I don't know if you want to call it a film, but is that your um the film or the video itself is underscoring the point, which is that
Mhm.
that bad faith is transmitted through a lot of what they're doing, and it can be proved if you do enough research and poison yourself with all those old videos. Like, if,
Well, it's just they have been one of the most damaging things to the online left at this point. Just their constant talking about things that they know are not true. And for me, the one that kind of stings the most is the whole rhetoric around birthing person. And I say this because I'm non-binary, pronouns she, her, they, them. I'm flexible with that, but I don't like being referred to as a woman.
okay,
Uh, so I started Rebel HQ, and a month after I started, Jank and Anna have a segment where they're railing against a New York doctor during COVID for trying to use gender inclusive language, the whole birthing person thing. And it wasn't so much that they were mocking the doctor for using clumsy language or anything. They were mocking her for just trying to use inclusive language. And that irked me because I understand birthing person doesn't sound that great. I get it. And new language, when we're coming up with new terms for things, it's always going to sound awkward at first. But it was the fact that her just trying to be inclusive was what they were kind of railing on. So I decided to challenge that. And I had been with Rebel HQ for only a month, and I'm like, okay. So I reached out to my producers and it's like, I'd like to come on the main show to talk about this. And if that's not a possibility, then I'd like to make a Rebel HQ video about it. And what I didn't tell them at the time was, and if that's not a possibility, I'm damn sure making a video about it and putting it on my channel. Um, but it didn't have to get that far because then they said, okay, I could go on the conversation. So
Hmm.
I am like the only person to actually challenge Jank about birthing person language on, it wasn't the main show, but on the main network. And I was so nervous. That was my first time talking to him. It was in a layout I wasn't familiar with. We only really had 15 minutes to talk, and there was just so much that I felt like I couldn't get out and say in that time. And I'm not a debater. I'm not.
Right.
And I still felt like I did a decent job, but at the end of it, I still felt like I was being dismissed because, oh, well, it's such a tiny percentage of people. And since then,
What year
he
was that, by the
has,
way? Can I ask what year roughly
oh
timeline?
gosh, I'd have to actually look that up. I'm horrible at recalling things like that.
But about 2 years ago, maybe three.
It was before, and this is the thing, it was before Anna's birthing person tweet.
I see. Okay.
Uh, so
The
when
prequel.
Jank started reacting to this whole birthing person thing, I got so mad because it's like, we're not trying to take away the word woman because that's what they kept on saying was we're trying to replace the word woman with birthing person. And it's like, no, that's not the case because I told you to your face that is
Right.
not the case. And since then, and this will be part of my video, he has gone on to countless shows, a lot of them right-wing shows, to constantly rail against how us on radical leftists were trying to erase the word woman with birthing person. And the thing is, and it's so infuriating on so many levels because as the new language has settled, birthing person didn't take off. We generally just say pregnant people
Right.
or people who can get pregnant. That's kind of where it started to land. But he still goes on insisting that we're trying to replace the word woman. And it's like, no one is trying to do that.
Right.
We just wanted an inclusive term so that, when we're talking about reproductive health specifically, you have a word that includes non-binary folks with a uterus, girls, women, but also and then trans men, but then also excludes women who can no longer carry a child because of menopause or they never had that ability or a whole other litany. It's specifically about people with the capacity to carry a child. And that is what that word is for. It's not for, you know, I don't go around identifying as a person who can get pregnant. Like that is not something anyone does. And nobody is demanding it of anyone else. And so when Anna gets on her case about like, oh, somebody once asked me if I'm a woman. And it's like, of course I am. And it's like, you would look at me and think, of course I'm a woman, but I'm not. I'm non-binary. And she got all offended about being just asked that. Whereas after she answers, I'm a woman, nothing happens to her. She's fine. She goes on with her life as normal. Whereas with me, every time I want to communicate that I'm non-binary, I have to make a judgment call. Am I safe to do that? Am I going to be respected by the person? Or are they going to start asking me invasive questions? Does it actually literally put me in danger because I'm around really bigoted people if I start mentioning things like I'm non-binary? Like I have to do that assessment every time. And so sometimes I have to make the choice of I'm going to be misgendered by this group of people because it's the lesser of the evils than if I think they found out. She's never had to
Right.
deal with that. And it's so frustrating that Jank has gone on and has literally told millions of people this lie that we are insisting that the word woman be replaced with birthing people. And it is just the amount of damage that has done. Because part of the thesis of my video is if you're just a casual viewer of online politics and you see the way that Jank talks about the online left, how involved would you want to get? with not just online politics, but with local groups politically. If you start to envision all these leftists that, will immediately start harassing you should you misgender someone, or you do one misstep, or you don't agree with them 100% of the time, how likely are you to get involved in that case if that is all you're seeing from Jank? And he seems to be the authority on it because they have the largest online progressive network out there.
Yeah. That's such a great way to look at that. What if you're just a casual consumer of this stuff, how are you going to, yeah, because if you do just take Jank's word, which he does speak with a lot of authority, and his command of his confidence that he sells into the camera, that is amazing the way you put that, yeah, because it would seem like a like his straw manning, which
Mhm.
see pointed out quite a lot when I watch these conversations happen. That lately there's been a big blow up with the Crystal Kyle and Friends appearance with Kyle Klinsky and Crystal Ball, and Jake straw manning about everything, and he paints a picture of a very hostile, unpersuade and it's. I think that reveals the shallowness of his arguments, because his logic because he does everything within this kind of like, I imagine in his brain is like a law school whiteboard with just sort of like a logic flow chart. Well, then there's this, then there's that, and thus this, and this point, and then this point, and he's very persuasive to himself, and his logic only fits if his straw men are real, but they're not.
Mhm.
It doesn't acknowledge that nuance, but the way that you put that is super interesting, and I think that's a really powerful way to describe the phenomenon and the damage that it's doing. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Bravo. Excellent
Well,
job.
there's something so this is something that I just realized. It's going to be in the script of my video, so you're getting a sneak peek of it. But
Uh-oh.
it's just something I realized because I watch the Majority Report a lot, because when it comes to
Mhm.
allies of queer folks and trans folks in particular, they're legit. Like
Yeah.
they are the real allies of the online leftist movement. They don't claim to be the home of progressives. They don't claim to be leaders. They're like, don't use us as that. Like they literally say, don't use us as an organizing tool. We have a Discord. You can go organize there, but we're not, we're just presenting information. But there's something that Sam has always said about um, Jones. Oh, what's his name? Jones.
Alex Jones?
No, yeah, Alex Jones. Alex
Yeah.
Jones. That if Alex Jones didn't exist, the right wing would have made him. And I'm like, you know what? If Cenk Uygur didn't exist, the establishment would have made him, because he's keeping the left fragmented. And when it's fragmented like this, it's less likely that the left will get behind a cause and do something like, oh, I don't know, elect Zoran Mandami.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's always railing about the establishment, like he's against the establishment. But my God, does he ever serve their cause?
Yes. And use their law firms, as is proven by the NLRB cases that he hires. TYT
Mhm.
uses anti-union, union avoidance, anti-worker law firms. So TYT is incorporated in Delaware. I mean, they're more than happy to take advantage of all the establishment perks.
Mhm.
TYT is run by a health insurance executive, which is shown in my movie. The guy had a 12-year career
Mhm.
working for
They're more than
blood-sucking
happy to
vampire.
endorse establishment people.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of the things I'm going to point out in my video, there was it, I have bad time with recall, but there's like, was
no
it
problem.
a senator or a governor or something like that, where they actually endorsed the right wing version as opposed to
You
the
mean, oh,
more left
TYT
wing?
endorsed?
Jank.
Well, there was a mayoral
Like Rick,
race. Yeah,
Rick Caruso?
Rick
Yeah.
Caruso was a right-wing billionaire guy,
Mhm.
a developer in the Los
Mhm.
Angeles area, real estate
Yeah, and
developer,
so if you're
but he
so
was pretending to be a
anti-establishment,
Democrat. Right.
if
Yeah.
you're so anti-establishment, why are you endorsing that person?
Right. Yeah. I think Jank's theory of power, and I think this is sort of part of the um, I'm trying to be really fair. I mean, it's not necessarily nefarious on its sort of surface description. Is that like he came up in an era? He's about 10 years older than me. He's in his 50s. That TV and media is is the way you can influence things. He wanted to be, as Sam Cedar said, he wanted to be at an airport and see him on all the televisions, like it's like as if he were CNN. He aspired to be, he was for, like in his earlier phases, you could see that he was probably influenced by big figures in terms of just influence, not necessarily politics, but like a Rush Limbaugh type, or the way that radio had such command over right wingers and right wing audiences in the 80s, 90s, and whatever. And that television was a way of forming. And so he wanted to make a difference in the world with his media presence, with his media efforts. I recall hearing about plans to try to be in international TYT, have TYT London, TYT, I don't know, Shanghai or something. It's in a globe spanning media enterprise. And he's not wrong. Media does have massive influence over the world. Obviously, it's besides the money and the industry itself, in terms of the amount of wealth that can be produced by being a successful media career. And I think in the last several years, with the internet sort of reaching, I don't know what phase we're in. We could probably call it mature, although who knows how they'll describe it from looking back from 40 years from now or something like that. But a major way, and so I think Jake got to experience a sense of that power when his company was ascended, when when things were really cooking in terms of their popularity. They were really, and I kind of think of TYT as sort of the Tesla of online politics. Like they were the first to market, so no one had many other choices, and a lot of people took them up on that. And in a lot of ways too, in a positive sense, I suppose, a lot of people needed. America's a very conservative rooted culture. It's conservative are a lot of people who are liberals are former conservatives. A lot of lefties are former conservatives who became liberals, who became lefties, myself included. Not that I was staunch conservative ever, but the kind of interfacing you need through a media system to kind of pull you towards one or ideology or another. I think Cenk and TYT's output fulfilled a role like that. I mean, I moved across the country to work there in 2013, thinking not with these same thoughts, but like that I was really persuaded by getting money out of politics. I still am. I think that that's one of the major things we could fix, but I'm not sure what point I'm making. So please interrupt if you feel.
Well, I think like part of me finds this very sad about the whole situation, because I do believe like having an online progressive network that spans, I think that's a good thing. And I
Yeah.
think what he was initially trying to do was a good thing. And I understand this desire to have a legacy, to make a difference, to be able to see like, this is where I made this change that really helped. And, he had the Justice Democrats. And the thing is that he has that legacy. He had it because there's so many people like me who got inspired to get involved with politics. I tried to run for office here in Canada because I was inspired by Jank. The whole reason why I ended up with my own YouTube channel was because I was inspired. And there's so many countless people like that. Like just the fact that there are the Justice Democrats is a result of his instigation, like his initiation. He already has an amazing legacy, and he is burning it to the ground right now because it wasn't good enough for him, which is just kind of really a sad slap in the face to all the people that really did, you know, have faith in him.
Well, yeah, something that kind of clicked for me a few months ago, about the process that a lot of your audience, your chat, and your cohort has talked about, becoming disillusioned with TYT, falling off from different trigger events. The birthing person being one of those for sure. The way that they went after Francesca and the kind of what the lead up to that, and there's various other examples. And some people cite the union busting as a time when they realized that there was maybe not much going on behind the curtain, or at least a mismatch between the principles that were worth supporting, or the public principles and the private principles. And like one thing that clicked with me is like I experienced pretty much the same thing, only in a much more protracted and intense way, because I started out as a fan of TYT in like 2007 or 08, and I was a paying member for like 3 or 4 years. I had this I'm the reason Jimmy Dore wound up at TYT because I suggested him to TYT via my contact there. I was a fan of his podcast. I was doing stand up, and he's
Okay, that's it. We gotta cancel you. That's
it's a
it. That's the hard
fair.
line there.
That's all right. What if you just like immediately grappled
That's
up
it.
out of the
Okay,
frame?
let's just put this on. Okay, we're good.
Yes, I should be held accountable for that for sure. Um, but you know, it was 2011 when I was like, hey, this
Mhm.
guy's in LA. He has this podcast. He talks lefty, or he talks about like liberal politics. Because I wouldn't have necessarily, I wasn't anti-left or anything. I just didn't have this conception of leftism in the sense of anti-capitalism until came to LA and worked for Jank. So he did radicalize me a lot. I see the book behind you, Against the Web. Michael Brooks, he played a big role in my kind of evolution from sort of like a firebrand or fire breathing progressive to, oh wait a minute, this is actually a whole different thing here, and there's this history too, colonial history, and all the entire world story basically. I met Michael. I knew him in person, working at Jimmy Dore's garage. I gave him a ride across, to his sister's house. It's one of my. I don't know why I'm so proud that I did that, but it was a privilege to know that guy. I'm
Mhm.
rambling, by the way, but the what was I getting at though? The emptiness of the principles, though, I think it's become apparent to people as people go through. Uh, as I experienced, like the health insurance, for instance, I asked Cenk if I could get health insurance. He said no. So when he tells people that he is concerned about people having health insurance, but he doesn't believe that enough to live it in his principles. I think he would, if he were a congressman or a Congress boss, let's say, would probably vote for a universal healthcare package. But supporting something as a policy and living something as a principle is not at all in line with the kind of with the message that he conveys through his
Mhm.
camera and through his his publishing.
Well,
There's
here's the thing, and this is also going to be in my video. Plug, plug, plug.
Go for it.
Uh, Jank is exceedingly principled. He is absolutely principled. Our problem is we're projecting progressive principles on him. But if you follow the principles of capitalism, he's extremely principled.
Yeah,
It's just they're not progressive principles. He
it's
follows the principles of capitalism. And if you look at it from that perspective, everything he does makes sense.
agreed. Yeah, that's yes. It's not just mismatches, putting it nicely. He's the principles that he tells the camera that the audience believes they support are not the principles that he lives by.
Mhm.
You don't classify somebody. I know I keep making it about myself, but the way he's treated all the other contributors to Rebel HQ that we've seen, Jeff Wiggins and Bonnie, sorry, and yourself and others, and Ben Dixon had a issue, and for my kind of thing, all that stuff has been very validating in terms of the kind of it's like this archipelago of different stories that are sort of developing, and I sort of forced myself into it with my documentary and my whole experience.
Mhm.
But just backing up a little, unless you wanted to follow up or respond to any of that, but like, when did you first start watching slash contributing to Rebel HQ? Maybe just talk a little bit
Well,
about the first watching TYT, maybe, and
yeah.
then like when did you decide to jump in? And
I first became a fan of TYT back when Trump like the election the first time.
2016.
Uh, and that's when I first kind of found out about Trump. Well, not about Trump, but about TYT and everything that was going on there. And I found the way that Jank in particular talked about it very cathartic, because you wanted to yell and scream and be like, what is going on? And, I had a stable-ish job at that time. So even I became paid member for a bit. And after Trump got elected, I thought, it's only a matter of time before that happens up here in Canada. And we got Doug Ford as the Premier of
Hmm.
Ontario, which is, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
uh, and I just remember a lot of the talk about Jank and the TYT army and getting involved and stuff that really pushed me to be like, I need to do something more. I can't just be passive watching all of this happen. And so I wanted to look into it, activism or politics, where can I make the biggest difference? But I needed to learn about politics first in order to find out, like, in order to change the system, you first have to know how that system works. And so I was able to take an online course about Canadian politics and made the decision to try running for office up here, which is a whole story in of itself that we do not have the time
I,
for.
I can imagine.
And that failed miserably. And it was devastating. And then it was actually Michael Brooks that kind of pulled me out of that haze. And I've talked about this before on my channel because I suffer with like mental health issues and stuff,
Relate.
including regular thoughts of unaliving myself. And I was in a super dark place after what happened during my attempt to run for office. And it was Michael Brooks that pulled me out of it by just got me asking, like, why am I still here? Why haven't I gone through with it? And the reality was, as much as I hated my life, I really like who I am. And who I am is, compassionate, courageous, a fighter, sense of humor, like all these things I lost after that experience that I had. And so I thought to myself, if I give up on that part of me, I might as well be dead. And so then that really kind of reignited who I was. And that was when I decided to start my YouTube channel. Unfortunately, that was right around the time he passed away, so I never got a chance to actually thank him for it, which I still kind of, you know, I just wish I had that opportunity to thank him for everything he did for me. And I started my channel. It was the November after he had passed away because I had already kind of been in the progress of putting everything together behind the scenes. And then just a year after I had started making my own videos, there was a call for contributors for Rebel HQ, and I thought, I'll send in an audition video. And it took a few months, but then I heard back from them. And the ball started rolling, and in a couple weeks, I had become a contributor to Rebel HQ. And this will sound, again, I was a fan of TYT, and people don't understand how devastating it is for me to even be making this video because those first few weeks of working at Rebel HQ were quite literally the best weeks of my life. I've had a really shitty life. um, but the validation, everything, my thought of like, wow, I'm really going to have an opportunity to make a difference now. I'll be able to get the progressive message out to a much larger audience, to speak on behalf of people with, disabilities, queer, living with poverty, all these things that tend to not be talked about on main shows and things of that sort. And I just, what I felt those few weeks was just, I didn't know it was possible to feel that good. And that quickly started to crumble after
Hmm.
that with my experience as being a contributor to Rebel HQ. And I do have a video about it. But the video that I made, I still don't even think accurately portrays everything I went through. And it was a lot of gaslighting, a lot of expecting me to know things or just frustrating things. The fact, like even just something, the simple fact that when there was a clip of something Canadian, it wasn't offered to me first.
Hmm. They'd give it to an American.
Yeah,
Famous,
like,
famous Americans are famous for their knowledge of Canada.
yeah. And there was one time when I actually wanted to kind of do like a clapback Rebel HQ video against Dave Schuster for talking about Canada,
Wow.
like in a very Canadian friendly way.
Yeah, sure.
But of course, I couldn't do that. But the meetings that I went through, what they were telling me, it was just, throw your autism on top of that and ADHD and OCD and all this sort of stuff, not knowing anything about the industry. And I was just, one meeting, they would be like, well, you should be doing this, this, and this. And then the very next meeting would be like, well, you shouldn't be doing this, this, and this. You should be doing this, this, and this. And then you try to change it, but now you need to be doing this and this, this. Oh, well, now your videos can only be 3.5 minutes long because that's what sells. Meanwhile, they have contributors that are making videos that are 15 minutes long. And all of this thing, like never being promoted on the main show. There were one of my frustrations watching the main show around then is they would sometimes get questions from the audience or comments from the audience where they're like, we want to see more international or Canadian shows. Even then, they didn't mention, oh, yeah, go to Rebel HQ and check out our Canadian contributor. Nothing. I
I'd
got
be surprised if you knew.
no support from them at all when it came to this sort of thing. And the clips that I was being handed were shit. Like they were not good
So
at
is it
first. Like at first, I wasn't even be given clips. They would send me a headline and then I was on my own. But part of the thing when I was interviewed for this that they were saying and that released a lot of my stress was them saying, we'll provide you with the clips. We'll have like these clips that you can choose from and we'll get to you and then we'll even have like backup clips and all this sort of stuff. And that was the relief for me because my biggest worry was how do I find these clips? And then the first 2 weeks, they didn't even send me a single fucking clip. It was all, here's a headline. Now it's up to you to go find it. And then
and
I
then
would ask them for help, and they're like, oh, well, we don't do that. But then
hmm,
the next meeting, it's like, well, you should be asking for this. And it's like, what is going on?
very mixed signals, like very disjointed. That sounds about right from my internal experience in a lot of ways. I mean, and just to be fair, not to counteract what,
Mhm.
but like I did actually also have some experience, plenty of competency too. A lot of the people I worked with at TYT are incredibly hardworking and
Mhm.
talented, and an operation like that does have plenty of opportunities to iron out some of the wrinkles that which I got to witness over
Mhm.
the years. I just want to defend a little bit of the some of the people that work
No,
there for sure.
like
But
generally speaking, I liked my producers,
yeah,
even though I was getting these mixed messages and stuff, I felt that the producer that I was working with was genuinely a good person, maybe overworked, but I didn't have any issues with them. But then at times during our meetings, some of the feedback, like it became very apparent to me, they weren't even watching my videos to give me appropriate feedback.
so
Because when I was told that I need to be more passionate in my videos, it's like, so you're just telling me you haven't seen a single one that I've done because I've got, yeah, I am.
your passion score is
That's,
low. Yeah, that's weird. Just a sense of the like so you're expected to make a certain amount per week. Is that the commitment? And you're an independent
well, it's per
contractor and
month.
per month. And then
Mhm.
do they and it's like kind of short form, play a clip, make a comment, play a clip, have a couple sentences, and they sort of have it
Mhm.
structured, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's formulaic, kinda. Except they also want you to bring in your own personality. I mean, there's a variety of different people who
Mhm.
contribute to Rebel HQ. I mean, jump in and tell me I'm wrong, but like, is there? That is interesting that like you were told one thing, then it switches back to the other, and so you must have just felt completely grounded, and it's very
Mhm.
difficult to kind of keep your positive creative energy going when that's the case. I would imagine. Am I off base?
Mhm. Oh, no, it was super frustrating trying to stay positive during all of this. Like I said, the quality of some of the clips they sent me were just not great. Then I would go off and get my own clips, and some of those would perform well. And then they're like, well, you really should be sticking to the ones that we're sending you. And it's like, but you're not sending me anything worth the quality.
And you're editing
And
yourself? Is that how I understand it? Like you
yeah,
turn in the thing that they end up publishing is what you turn in to them.
I handed them the complete package,
Okay,
and then they would just put the thumbnail and title.
gotcha.
Uh, and like another one of my frustrations with all of this was I wasn't allowed to shout out my YouTube channel, Left of the Box. You should go check it out.
Go check it out, everybody. Scammer.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to shout out my YouTube channel during these videos. All I could say was you can find me on social media as Left of the Box. And of course, back at that time, in the little Kion or whatever, I had my Twitter account as opposed to my YouTube channel because my Twitter account had a much larger following at that time. And then that was linked completely to my YouTube account,
Hmm.
which now I kind of wish that it was the reverse and maybe I could have had my YouTube channel there. But it was so frustrating that the feedback they were giving me was nothing that was actually actionable, that a lot of the things that needed to be improved were things like the thumbnails and the titling, the things that I had no control over, or just being shouted out on the main show, or the fact that I could see some of the other people in their videos not have the same type of insight as mine, not have, you know, all of these things, but there were similar edits in theirs. So they had somebody actually doing editing work on their videos. It wasn't just them. And again, it was so, so frustrating that here they're telling me that I need to do these for successful videos, but it's like I'm watching these other videos and they're not doing it.
Right.
And they're fine to do these things. It's just so frustrating.
Disrespectful. Is that a fair
Mhm.
word?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I certainly can relate to that. And then whether performance, like like if you weren't reaching certain milestones, like did that connect to what they paid slash also whether they would keep you? I mean, did you feel like you were on the chopping block
It
a
had
lot
to
of the?
do, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like I was on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Because it was they expected a certain amount of views per month or per video. And so you make a certain amount of videos per month. They expect a certain amount of views per video. And then if you get over a certain, like if you get over 1 million views on all your videos across platforms, then you would get a bonus. But I got a flat rate per video that I did,
Hmm.
uh, which I was fine with. Um, and but then when it came to the meetings, oh, I forget what they're called. Just the meetings about how you're doing. There was a
Uh,
very corporate term for it.
yeah. They like those.
I forget the name of it, but just being like, okay, here are all your analytics and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, this is an issue and this and this. And, you know, so, and they also didn't warn me because my first video did really, really good. And then it kind of dropped off drastically. And they didn't tell me how badly I was doing until the first meeting. And I was really devastated
Mm-hmm.
and felt like it was all my fault. But again, no one was coaching me in a way that was actually helping anything I was doing. No one was changing how the video was titled or anything. And sometimes, it would take days for my video to be uploaded. So it'd be past the point of relevancy and they'd be uploaded at past 10 o'clock at night. And they would try to be like, oh, that doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference. I do YouTube videos. It makes a difference as to what time you upload it.
Yeah.
And so it could be days before they would even upload it. I wouldn't even get a warning as to when it would be uploaded because whenever one of mine was, I would go and try to plug it on my platforms and whatnot. And there was something else I was going to say about this. That again, one of the very key indicators they weren't watching my videos was they wanted me to do um, the vertical shots for some of them, so they fit better on a phone. And I have to do all my own editing. Before I started my YouTube channel, I had no experience in any of this. So I was learning on the fly. And the first video I sent them like that, I'm like, can you please confirm to me that this is okay? And I never heard anything back. It got uploaded and it was still in the standard YouTube frame, just in the middle. Because when I exported it, I still had it at the standard YouTube frame, as opposed to even though I made the video in the vertical,
Yeah.
when
You
it
filled the center
exported,
of
it
it. Right.
converted. And they didn't tell me. And so now I have this video where it's standard YouTube frame, but it's just the vertical in the middle and it looks ridiculous. Like they weren't giving me any feedback on how my videos were doing at the time. And then when they did, it was so vague or repeating things that they told me not to do. And again, it was so frustrating.
Well, I definitely can't speak for everybody were there, obviously, but like it's a fair assumption that there were other up the chain of that work structure, workflow, um, also disrespect flowing too, and people probably just trying to get through their day to get onto the next thing because they probably felt overwhelmed in some ways. Not a universal experience. I shouldn't speak for
Mhm.
everybody, but that's incredibly. I can see how aggravating that must feel to be held to account for metrics that you have so little to do with. I mean, in other words, like the timing of the day, the thumbnail, the thing, the packaging. I did publishing at TYT in the first iteration. I worked there between like 2013, 20 through 2015 a little. I did a lot of main show headlines and publishing and stuff. But so it is such a difficult thing to do, and you do it as YouTube. I stress myself out constantly about how to title my videos and all that stuff, and I hate that part of it. It is really frustrating. It's just I
I'm
get
not
so,
good at it.
I like the talking part. I like the
Mhm.
creativity, the storytelling, and that kind of. But that bit of it is just this whole world, not just TYT, but that whole. It's so
Mhm.
it feels so important, but it's also just you overthink it so much, and it becomes
Mhm.
this torture device more than anything else. It seems like.
Mhm.
And then you finally left Rebel HQ in the last 2 year or about 2 years ago or so ish, something along
Yeah,
those lines.
so
And
I was with them for, I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 months, and it was basically at the time the door was kind of left open for me to return because generally speaking, they liked me, they liked my content. So it was like, okay, you can go back to your YouTube channel. And then if you start building up like a bigger audience and stuff like that, then maybe you can come back and whatnot. So I didn't necessarily even leave on bad terms. It was just my videos weren't performing. That's the short of it. Um, but there was all the other things in between as to why they weren't performing.
right, right.
So the door was left open. And so overall, despite the stress and the headache and some of the breakdowns that I had during it, it was a more positive, like it was more beneficial for me because I learned how to tighten up my own videos and do better editing and all this sort of stuff. And so the door was left open for me to return. And that was like one of the first times I got acknowledged on the main show was for Jank saying, okay, they're off type thing. And good luck with what they're doing and whatnot. And that was the first time my YouTube channel got plugged on the main during a break. You know, but so it felt like a friendly send off and stuff. But then the following spring, so this was in the fall, and then the following spring is when Anna did the whole, oh, I can only be called a woman. Don't you dare. It's so disrespectful to be referred to as anything other than that, which, for me, as somebody who is a person with a uterus, um, yeah,
Now I'm a person
that didn't
from a
sit well with me.
uterus myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't sit well with me. And so I made a couple videos about that. And when I made those videos, I knew that door that was left open was being slammed, closed, and welded shut.
Yeah.
I knew that by making those videos, I would never, never be allowed back on that network. But
I think they're going to have me back on
yeah,
eventually. Yeah,
yeah, think
probably.
so.
Yeah, definitely. I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So it's over. I mean, it ends and you move on and I mean, it's, move into a new phase of life. And how are things up in Canada? I'm trying to kind of transition a little away from TYT talk.
yeah.
Not that we can't. Obviously, there's more to say. Oh, I did want to the whole feeling of um like having just back to the TYT thing. I just rewind for a
Mhm.
sec. It's the like that whole process. It's a difficult thing to do is to get people on
Mhm.
board and into the same system and get this thing work flowing, because it is the reality that if stuff doesn't make money, then they can't afford to put resources behind it. I think we all sort
Mhm.
of grasp that, but you're more likely to achieve the ability to keep it self-funding by nurturing talent in a way that allows for the development and and like the skills to grow and the cooperation to foster that collective power that would make it more likely to do that. So it just seems like I felt that a lot there too. It's like you're constantly sort of feeling like you're hamstrung by top down dictates, and whether you're they have these performance review things that they have to do where if like certain membership goals aren't reached annually, then your bonus will be docked something.
Mhm.
And it's like, what the hell does that got to do with me? I'm an editor. What the fuck? I wasn't included in that program because they excluded me from benefits, but that was like, so there was that sense of like, I'm sorry. It's just an excuse so that they have power, though. Honestly, is what that is.
Mhm.
It's just an excuse to hold a card that you can't really deal with. Oh, sorry, you don't get it's your, but it somehow feels like it's your fault when it's
Mhm.
actually the people in charge who are responsible. So anyway,
Yeah.
I wanted to wrap. But so okay. you're good on do you want to talk Star Trek? I just wanted to. There's two quick things I wanted to say. One was to flatter your. This is not Star Trek, but that drawing of Olay that you showed, I had to. I'm. You have this time lapse thing. Would it be weird if I included it in the video here, or do you want to keep it on your? Does that feel like it's your?
You can include it after I've posted it on my social medias to try to get her attention.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I don't want to just take your content over here, but it was
No,
so
no, that's
everybody
fine.
go follow
Um,
Sandee on her socials and see it when it comes up. But what I was
but
so
I
impressed
have
with.
plenty of those videos if you want to go check them out.
Oh, okay. Can I post a different one?
Oh
Not
yeah.
that I need to. Actually, I'm making more
Yeah.
work for myself. I'd rather not. But I just want to show the audience was so cool from a technical. This is more my
Mhm.
editor brain asking. Is like it, we see these process videos of people drawing or something. They don't always show their hand but your
Mhm.
camera. So explain to me, maybe it's not as simple. Are you filming a video or are you taking
Mhm.
photos of your thing? Because it's so smooth and
Yeah.
still. And
I
that's what's so
know,
impressive
I
to me is
know.
how like it
And
looks like it
those
just
videos,
emerges out of the paper
yeah,
kind of.
those videos you can find on my YouTube channel under art shorts, or you can
Okay.
go to my Instagram, Sandee Lovas,
Go there,
to
everybody.
see them.
Yeah.
Uh, but they should be getting millions of views
They're
because
impressive.
I've never seen anyone do it quite like that. And they're very
Yeah.
short, they're under a minute. But I do photography as well as artwork, and I do video editing. And so what I do is I have an easel set up and I put marks on it as to where the paper goes on it. I have the
Hmm.
tripod set up with the camera, and then I mark on the floor where the tripod is. And then I change the lighting in the room. And so as I'm going along every now and then, I'll take pictures of it. And so everything is in the exact same setup because I put the paper where the markers are, the tripod, and then I'll select an image from each segment because I'll do like 3 pictures at a time or something because sometimes it's non-focus.
Yeah.
And then I toss them into Photoshop, and I still have to then align them slightly
Okay. That's what I was
because
curious of.
the camera will move my cats. Big fans of moving my tripods.
They love a
Or
leg.
just yeah, or just handling the camera and stuff. Sometimes it will shift a bit.
Hmm.
I might need to clean up certain spots because it wasn't perfectly in focus because it's hard to tell sometimes. Adjust it so that the contrast stands out a bit more. And so I have to align them all, do all that. And there's usually anywhere from 15 to 20 frames that I then toss into a video editing program. And I just have it very smoothly so that I touch them all or overlap them all so that it's constantly changing. So there's no pauses, it's just constantly changing. And you see it kind of like a Polaroid picture um,
And you
appear into to life.
and you're crossfading each frame or
Mhm.
each image into the next one.
Well, they're blended. So I just take them and I put them over top so it fades, like it immediately starts blending into the next one.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Because I was watching, I saw it, and I was like, because I thought you said you take a picture, and I was like, damn, how does she keep it so still? Because touching a
Mhm.
camera, it's just a little bit will
Yeah,
make it jostle or setting. And I know those drawings don't take one day. You don't whip one out in
yeah,
like 4 hours, right? So like
yeah.
I was
So
just
if you go to my webpage,
mm-hmm.
sandeelovas.com, and you want a commission of a pet or a person, these videos are included. I don't
Oh,
charge
good.
extra for them because I'm gonna do it anyway
That's a ton
because
of
they're
work.
amazing for advertising.
That's a lot of work. I did the
Mhm.
amount of aligning. I mean, I've done a hell of a lot of that kind of stuff in Photoshop. I mean, but like the fact that you're not just like stitching together a bunch of little files into a video, you're actually editing and then blending them, and then like that's a lot of work. So commend you on that one. And it looks really interesting. It's like kind of weird how it sort of like I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. Um,
Mhm.
and just a quick question about Star Trek. I know we're nearing the
Mhm.
end, but what's your jam? I'm a big Star Trek guy. I've been a huge fan
Mhm.
for quite a while. Where do you? No, I don't have any. I mean, I have strong like attachments to Star Trek, but not strong opinions necessarily. I'm always just curious where people. What are you kind? What kind of Trekkie are you? Do you have a?
Uh, well, when I grew up, um, I watched The Next Generation,
Hell yeah,
and that's pretty much where I got all my good morals from. Because I
that's where I
definitely
got my
wasn't getting
baldness.
them from home.
Hmm.
Home
Oh,
was not where I was getting those. But
they were Star Wars fans.
that that taught me compassion, you know, empathy to be more inclusive. Like all of the good, wholesome aspects of Star Trek and whatnot really helped to shape who I am today.
Okay. So which episode do you watch the newer ones? I'm kind of curious about. It's like
I wish I could,
Discovery,
but
Strange New Worlds, those.
I wish I could, but I live with poverty.
Okay.
And so getting all the different streaming platforms with all the different Star Treks, I don't have the money or the access to
Gotcha.
do that. So if you go to my Amazon wish list, which you can find on my YouTube channel under any of
Go
my
there.
videos, I sometimes will have box sets of those things on the wish list so that I
I
can
see.
hopefully get caught up on all of it because I do want to see them all. I don't think, post Star Trek Voyager, I don't think there's a complete series I've seen in full since.
I see. Yeah. They're different. I don't know.
Mhm.
They're real busy. I love the 90s treks, the Voyager, DS9 and TNG.
Well, I like how they could just be an episode. An episode was its own closed story.
Right.
And it wasn't, life and death necessarily. It was sometimes just learning about how to be human or something and
Yeah.
how to relate to others and moral messaging and whatnot. It wasn't necessarily like, if you don't do this, the world is going to blow up every time. Like they weren't always so anxiety driven, but they were very emotional and touching at times because I guess you could say they were more intimate.
I think it's fair. Yeah, I kind of like the ones where they're just like worried about
Mm.
staffing decisions or something weird. Somebody's getting ready for a
Mhm.
dance, or they do a lot of concerts. like
Mhm.
Data's trying to
Yeah.
learn how to be stuff
Well,
like that. I mean, I view Star
the
Trek as a sleep aid. Actually, like it's like
Mhm.
it's in my brain so deeply because I can't fall asleep without sound because
Yeah.
I'm a maniac and my brain goes wild.
Well,
Um,
rewatching it now because somebody gifted me with the box set of The Next Generation, and rewatching it now is just wild because I'm like, oh, again, I'm autistic. This makes so much more sense because
yeah,
I'm looking at it, it's like, so they're just all autistic on the show.
kind of.
Like, and that's probably part of the reason why I was relating with them so much because, Data would say something, and then I realized later on, it's like, I've said those exact same things at work, trying to relate to the humans around me.
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so it was wild seeing it again as an adult. Or, to me, also Deep Space Nine, very impactful with their war with the Dominion and how that relates to everything that's going on now and the talk of like genocides and whatnot.
Right.
Very one episode in particular is, oh my God, is that such a gut punch? um, in Deep Space Nine, just talking about some of those horrors and whatnot, and it's like, wow,
Yeah, occupation
that
and
really feel it.
yeah, like yeah, and one of
Hmm.
the main characters is a former terrorist, and they get in, but they don't shy away from it whatsoever. They get into the
Hmm.
nuances of what it means to be a freedom fighter,
Hmm.
and it's an amazing show. Yeah, I came to
Hmm.
DS9 a bit later than the other ones. Yeah, they're so great. There's a wonderful TikTok account. I can't think, but they post clips from the director's commentary of First Contact, the film, TNG First
Hmm.
Contact film. Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker, he's a director. He does a lot of directing for episodes and various things,
Hmm.
but he directed that, and he and Marina Sirtis is who plays Counselor Troy. They're married. They're like best buds. And they have this amazing chemistry. So this TikTok posts little clips of Jonathan and Marina talking as they're watching First Contact, the movie. They're both in it. He directed it.
Hmm.
And she's seeing it for the first time since the premiere in the late 90s. So she's
Hmm.
like surprised by stuff, but they have this beautiful chemistry. They love each other so much. It's a really nice
Hmm.
thing that where Jonathan and Marina and they just are they're so like into it. It's just weird. It's like they're two parts of the same creature. They're just amazingly the chemistry that they
Yeah.
have is just like makes my heart warm.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, it's so again like watching it as an adult because as a kid I would remember thinking that a lot of this just makes sense. Like this is the vision of the future, this is where we're
Hmm.
going. And then as an adult you realize they're talking about socialism, you know, a moneyless world, a world where everyone's healthcare needs was taken care of and how, you could pursue things that you're interested in. Everyone was looked after
Right.
and very like a very socialist type world. And it's like, Oh,
Like if I had
we went off the rails. We
the
went way off the
resources,
rails.
yeah, it's and yeah, well, there's a whole lore to how they got to that too. They needed to go through a
Mhm.
nuclear exchange, like World War III in the late,
Mhm.
but I'm so into it. If I had the
All I know is that
wherewithal,
the Bell Day has come and gone,
I know,
and
I know, and it's about probably worse than, but yeah, that is a Gabriel Bell. The oh shoot, oh, if I would love to do like a comedy sketch, like if capitalism was in Star Trek, and like, could you imagine having to walk into sick bay and immediately have to like give up money, and like they like stopped you and made sure that you had enough ability to afford it, and then like they just let like red shirts die in the hallway because they couldn't. Like, could you imagine seeing something how
Mhm.
or they're all stressed out about their insurance, even the bridge officers who are like the they're like the bourgeoisie of the,
It's like,
even though they're not, but
Captain, we're not going into battle right now because we don't want to risk the injuries. So can we just turn the ship around?
yeah. I didn't have phaser insurance, so just sorry. He's gonna have to go down the hallway, and then
Mhm.
that some financial officer will talk you. It's like we're just tortured.
And then their
Speaking of
holographic,
vampires,
and then their holographic doctor would interrupt their service every now and then with an ad.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, exactly. I always thought, why not? Why is the hologram a guy? Why can't he just be a giant blob that moves around the sick bay? He's a hologram. He doesn't have to be a human.
Yeah.
Robert Picardo, no offense,
Yeah.
wonderful man, seems like a good guy, great actor, but that's hilarious. I love that he just stops and
But
tries
every
to
now and
sell
then,
him.
just like, have you tried Viagra?
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
Or
Um,
have you noticed lately that you've been seemingly a bit sluggish?
yeah, yeah. What kind of lawn fertilizer are you using? Mid surgery. That's brilliant. Yes, it would be. We're
And
in the
on this
nightmare.
ship, we have exactly 40 matches for your dating profile.
Yeah, God. But yeah, it
That'd be
is, and
horrible.
it's beautiful that they trust each other in those worlds too. I think we get to
Mhm.
experience like the. I think that's a major deficit in our world. Anyway, I could go on.
Mhm. Yeah.
Let's end on a nice, fun Star Trek note. Certainly working towards it. Maybe just got a couple century or two of horrible holocausty nuclear war nightmare to go through. Capitalism's going to force some way or another. So that's the way I'm ending this show. But Sandee, hold up your book again, Necroplasm, guys. Support an author. I'm looking forward to more and seeing what comes of it and everything. So left
Yeah,
that
it's
I don't have it.
available on Amazon as a paperback or an ebook, and the vampires in this book are exclusive to this book. Because part
Okay.
of the reason why I love the vampire genre is they're very versatile. So depending on what story you're reading or lore, there's different history, there's different abilities and what they can do, how they're created, and all that sort of stuff. So the vampires in this book are unique to this book,
Okay.
which is really fun. And I can't wait to do all the sequels and the prequels to it, which is why I need to get that TYT video done.
Well, I want to know
Uh,
if they can be
I
killed, but
love that book.
I'll have to wait to read the book and find out. Maybe because that's always a part of the vampire. Can they how to kill them? Can they be killed? Well, um, yeah. How much concrete do I
But
need to
really,
bury them under?
in this world, would vampires be the monster?
In our world now, yeah, I think capitalism. I think vampires are probably the best metaphor, monster wise, for capitalism. For
Mhm.
its corporations, the eternal monsters that are devouring everything that they come across. And I would add
Well,
junk
if
into
you look
that
at it
pile.
that way, yes. But
Yeah,
if there were actual creatures out there that needed to survive on human blood, not a choice, they need to.
right.
But you look at everything that happens in this world right now, would they really be the monsters compared to humans?
I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. But there's nuance. Yes. Like you say, there's that angle to it as well. So Sandee, it's been really nice talking with you. And I'm sending you love and support on the video. It's so hard. I really understand. It's such a
Mhm.
poison it's not self-inflicted, but it is a and it's so hard to get your
Mhm.
brain back into it. I'm struggling with that myself. So, but
Yeah.
it's going to be great when it comes out, and I'm going to promote it on my channel when it
Mhm.
comes out, and looking
Yeah,
forward to
and right
more.
back at you with yours.
Thank you.
So everyone, you can go to Left of the Box to learn more about Canadian politics. I talk about it with sarcasm and sass. Also, from the perspective of somebody who is non-binary queer, lives with poverty and disabilities, which is quite often topics that get missed in the conversations. I try to do live streams, and I want to get back to clipping them more and making more like videos, one-off videos. But again, until this TYT video is done, I'm fried. I can't do that extra work. But yeah, lots going on in Canadian politics. Oh my God, we could spend there 3 hours just talking about what's happening up here. And part of the reason why it's important for all you Yankees to go and watch it is we need more cross-border solidarity. What's happening down in the States is happening here. It just looks different. And the
Yeah,
right wing works seamlessly across borders and around the world. The left needs to be doing the same thing. And so we have far more similarities in our struggles than what a lot of people think. We just happen to have, slightly better healthcare and sense of humor.
very true. Very true. Um, I can't argue with that. So, all right.
But I have lots to say about our current prime minister and my current premier here in Ontario. And yeah, there's it. Let's just say Canadian politics is nowhere near as boring as people thought would
Yeah.
think it is. It's far more dynamic and horrifying at this moment.
So it is a
And
lot
I
more like
blame the
America.
states. I
Yeah.
blame Americans for being such big influences on our
And
politics.
for setting the bar so low that the other countries could be shitty and just be like, oh, at least we're not that fucking place. Jesus Christ.
Well, prime example is, America number one with police shootings. Oh, you're horrible, horrible. Canada is number two. And
Mm,
equally, base income countries. We're number
gotcha.
two.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We're the hockey of police shootings. Does that make sense? No. Um, fantastic. I can hockey stop, by the way. I know but Americans have a weird like dismissiveness of Canada that I think I've always found that stupid. Just like, what are you talking about? They're just people, right? Like,
Well,
what?
let's put it this
Um,
way. You can fight better when you can point to Canada and be like, look at the healthcare there. Look at how cheap their medication is there. It helps your fight if you can point to Canada and say that.
yeah.
But with the way things are going, if you see our system crumble and crash, then you have a whole bunch of right-wing politicians saying, see, it didn't work there, so it won't work here.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
in your own best interest
Very
to pay
much.
more attention to what's happening in Canada.
Yeah. And the right wingers are trying to destroy England's system, and yeah, it's gross. The vampire. Okay. Anyway, we could keep going. Thank you, Sandee. I'm just gonna end the show. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon, and bye.